I'm Claudio Simpkins, attorney and native New Yorker, and this is Better Call Claude. This is going to be a web series dedicated to really going deep on the policy level and the legal level on a number of issues that impact us as New Yorkers. So over the next few weeks, we're going to address a number of topics. For starters, we're going to talk about transportation. Why in the world does the MTA suck balls? We're also going to address, naturally, affordable housing, or the lack thereof. I know a lot of y'all are dealing with this on a daily basis, myself included. And finally, we're going to take a moment and we're going to actually look into other issues that address and that impact creative professionals. But today we're going to talk about the big one. I know you've seen it in the news. It's all over Facebook. It's all over your Instagram. We're going to talk about net neutrality. I know a lot of people have heard about this. It's a big buzzword. You probably even got a couple of petitions going on your gram right now. But what does it really mean? What does the change, the repeal of net neutrality mean for us? And what do we do moving forward? If we're going to talk about net neutrality, we have to talk about what regulating the internet means. Now, the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, they're the folks that get to regulate the internet. They're the ones that come up with the rules about how the internet works. Now, net neutrality is a set of rules that says basically internet service providers such as AT&T, Charter, Time Warner, Verizon, the big boys, they have to treat all content, all data, all information that flows on the internet fairly, the same, and equally. Back in 2010, George W. Bush decided that he was going to first institute these rules that would protect net neutrality and ensure that everything was treated fairly. These rules really center around three principles. One is no blocking of websites that compete with you or that you don't like with or that produce content or information that you don't agree with. We've seen this be an issue over and over before. We've seen issues where Verizon or AT&T might have a competitor with a website that's kind of popping and decide that they're just gonna block access. So Google Wallet for a while was blocked by Verizon and some folks because they had a competitor. Or for example, if you were really rocking with YouTube, you might want to block access to Vimeo or something along those lines. So we've seen this happen before, and the federal government in 2010 under George W. Bush said that's a no-no. Net neutrality means you can't block websites. The second principle of a fair and open internet is that you can't throttle. A lot of people already know what this means. It's when you go to a website and you decide that you want to stream a video or you want to play a game or you want to download some content and you realize that the speeds that you're accessing are basically down to a snail's crawl. This has been an issue in the past. Obviously, again, it's something that impacts competition, innovation. If an internet service provider decides that they don't want their customers to really rock with a certain website or a certain service, they can just slow down the internet access to that website and ensure that it's essentially impossible to really enjoy the services or the content on that site. The last thing that net neutrality really protects is a rule against paid prioritization. And this is what you've heard about: fast lanes, slow lanes, that kind of thing. Essentially, internet service providers would love to create another revenue stream. And the way to do that is to tell websites that if you want your customers and you want your consumers and you want your subscribers to really have access and have sharp and perfect and effective access to your website, then pay up a little bit more money and we'll make sure that everything goes real smoothly. But what happens in that case to the little guy who can't afford to pay the extra money to make sure that Time Warner or Charter or somebody like that ensures that their subscribers, their visitors can actually get to their website? You kind of shit out of luck. So starting with these three principles: no blocking, no throttling, and no paid prioritization, we have George W. Bush's FCC have a 2010 ruling, right? So they say you can't do this. Of course, the ISPs raise all holy hell, they take it to court, and in 2014, Verizon officially wins a court case. And the DC Circuit Court of Appeals says, nah, listen up, FCC. If you really want to make these rules and you want to say you got the authority to kind of like set stuff down like this, then you need to change to Title II, essentially. So what does the repeal of net neutrality mean? Well, as we discussed, if net neutrality is based on the principles that there will be no blocking, no throttling, and no paid prioritization, does that mean now that all those things are fair game? Well, yes and no. To be fair, internet service providers since day one have said, we wouldn't do that to you guys. Why would you? Us? Like, nah, come on, son. We would, y'all, you know, we're cool. We wouldn't do that. But if you look carefully, some ISPs are already reneging. For example, Comcast, slyly on the low, have already deleted the section of their website that talks about how they treat the internet and how they feel about net neutrality. The section that talks about paid prioritization is gone. Middle of the night, real low. As soon as the Republican commissioner of the FCC said, we're gonna vote on repealing net neutrality, Comcast started walking back some of their promises to consumers like you and me. Now, what does it really mean moving forward? Another problem is we don't know. Now, under the old net neutrality regime, the FCC governed and dictated what happened on the internet under Title II, remember? As a Title II of the Communications Act gave them more regulatory power. So they had stricter rules and they required the internet service providers to provide them with more information about anything they did that impacted online data. Now, to be fair, the Republican commissioner and the folks who support repeal of net neutrality will say, well, listen, the new regime, the new way we got things going, it has a transparency rule. So the ISPs are still gonna have to let us know what goes down and what their plans are on how they're gonna treat data from this website and that website. But I would still be wary. Why, you ask? First of all, it's not as thorough as the old one was. And second of all, a lot of the information that they would be reporting is voluntary under the new regime. And finally, let's be real. The Republican commissioner who leads the FCC used to work for Verizon. Do you really think he has any incentive or any reason to really enforce and go after these reporting demands when that's his man's in them? I wouldn't think so either. So, all that being said, let's really dig deep for this final section and talk about what happens next. So what should we expect next? Lots of litigation. The lawyer in me rejoices. But basically, don't expect a lot of changes to your internet straight off the bat. Why? Because what are the opponents of these new changes to net neutrality going to do? They're gonna run to the courthouse and they're gonna probably seek what's called a preliminary injunction or a stay. This is basically going to a judge and saying, whoa, 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 whoa. We need a timeout, dog. We don't understand what's going on here. There's a risk that we're going to be irreparably harmed, harm that you can't fix with money, harm that you can't make better. So therefore, judge whoever your name is, you need to just call timeout and put all of this on hold until we can figure out exactly what's going on. Now, in order to win a preliminary injunction or a stay, like I said, you got to prove irreparable harm. It can't just be, this is going to disadvantage my business. This might mean that I get fewer people visiting my website. This means that I can't really get my videos out there like that. No. It's got to be something bigger. And the ISPs know this. So naturally, they're not going to take any rash moves. They're not going to take any big steps. They're not going to do anything that would give ammunition to their critics, to their opposition, right? Why should AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, Charter, any of these folks immediately jump into blocking websites or throttling websites? It's only going to make the opposition's case even stronger in court. So I would expect that the ISPs are going to take a very long and slow look at exactly how they want to approach this. And I wouldn't expect any sudden decisions or moves because, end of the day, they know they've got to get through court with these rules intact if they're going to be able to profit off of them in the future. So this is net neutrality and this is net neutrality's repeal. It's going to be important moving forward for all of us. It could have a huge impact on how the internet works, how we view it, how we interact with it, what we can do with it, and what you can do with your own content on the internet. This is Better Call Claude, a pilot episode of a policy explainer and legal explainer. We're going to continue to hit a number of different topics moving forward. Like I said, transportation, affordable housing, city government. This is your host, Claudio Simpkins. This has been Better Call Claude. If you love the show, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to share and tell the homies, and leave a comment.